Today, Heather Volchko and Candace McCoy will be talking about high leverage practice number 18, how to use strategies to promote active student engagement.
Welcome to A Little TLC, the podcast where we explore the dynamic world of education. Join our host, Heather Volchko, as this season we focus on high leverage practices, known as HLPs. Each episode will examine a different HLP, an essential strategy designed to enhance teaching and improve outcomes across various educational settings. These practices focus on collaboration, assessment, social emotional behavioral support, and instruction, benefiting all K-12 students. I hope you're ready to be both challenged and inspired because this season is all about mastering the HLPs. This is A Little TLC.
Teachers use a variety of instructional strategies that result in active student responding. Active student engagement is critical to academic success. Teachers must initially build positive student-teacher relationships to foster engagement and motivate reluctant learners. They promote engagement by connecting learning to students' lives, for example, knowing students' academic and cultural backgrounds, and using a variety of teacher-led, like choral, responding, and response cards, peer-assisted, such as cooperative learning and peer tutoring, student-regulated, for example, self-management, and technology-supported strategies shown empirically to increase student engagement. They monitor student engagement and provide positive and constructive feedback to sustain performance.
For this high leverage practice, this HLP, we are discussing using strategies to promote active student engagement. So student engagement being much more than just eyes where they need to be or mouths quiet, but truly actively engaging in whatever learning is going on. So this week with me, I have Candace, who is the queen of trapping all of our reluctant learners at the secondary level into truly engaging meaningfully with whatever activity they've been given, even some of the most challenging activities to get our guys to interact with. So, Candace, when we're talking about those strategies and we're specifically leaning into active student engagement, what does this mean for you?
This definitely means something different for every kid. So step one is listening to what it is that they need. They're usually telling us, maybe not in the way that we normally hear it, but they are, and really paying attention to that. And this has looked different with every kid that I've worked with. And I will say that none of the engagement that I've seen out of the kids that I work with looks like what you would consider typical engagement. It's always atypical. It's always different than the norm. Their methods of engaging are always something a little bit different, and it takes a little creativity. You've got to be willing to allow them to learn in their way, which can be a challenge. And I absolutely respect the challenge that is for a teacher in a classroom full of, 15, 20 kids to be able to help each student with their own method of engagement. That's very difficult. That's where people like us come in, and we sort of take those ones that aren't engaging and figure out what it is that works for them. So it can be such a variety of things, whether that's, technology, whether that's lack of technology. For a lot of students, it's taking the computer away. You'll get more active engagement out of them. It could be motivators, tokens, prizes, seating arrangements. I mean, literally everything and anything you could think of can really be the thing that helps them to engage. You just have to pay attention to what it is that they need.
Yeah. And thank you for calling out that active engagement looks a lot of different ways, because most people will think or will basically see active engagement and basically assume that simply means that they're doing what I've told them to do. So if they're supposed to be, completing this worksheet or engaging in this group activity, whatever that explicit exact thing is active engagement. And if it's not that, then it's not actively engaging. But you're saying that it can actually be bigger than that. There's a lot of different ways that students can be showing up and engaging in their learning in meaningful ways that are truly engaged. And then we're moving them in the direction of maybe that desired work product or something like that. Can you speak a little bit to that? Like, what would be some other examples of active student engagement that's more than just like doing the worksheet or answering the question and engaging in the group work?
The very first thing that comes to my mind is one of my all-time favorite students ever. We had a heck of a time getting this student to engage in classroom time, particularly like being read to or lectures or that kind of a format. Just a heck of a time. But he had some sensory issues that caused him to feel much better when he was standing on his head. And oftentimes he was disrupting the classroom to do a headstand, and he was being reprimanded for doing a headstand in the middle of the classroom, until we realized that while doing that headstand, he was actively engaged in what was going on in the classroom. And if we didn't allow that, he felt out of control and was unable to focus. And so we created a spot and put like a box on the floor with tape and created a safe space for him to do his headstand. And he would listen to every word that was being said. And when we were done speaking, he could regurgitate back to you everything that was talked about. And he did so while standing on his head. And for me, that is a great example of just out of the box, or for him in the box, active student engagement, where he was not engaged until we allowed that. And that is not what a normal classroom looks like. It's not even feasible in every situation. But for us, we paid attention and we recognized what he needed and found a way to make that happen. And he was still able to learn.
Yeah, I love that. And that's so good because that's showing the learning process. A lot of times, engagement is almost focused on the product. And that you're talking solely about the process of learning and engaging. No, there's all kinds of different ways that that can look so that I can then perform on this product. I mean, the student you're talking to, I remember administering the state standardized assessments to him while he's standing on his head with a very, creative use of accommodations and test read and, scribe and all that stuff so that he could be on his head. We could ask the question, he'd give us the answer, we'd mark it down and keep going. But it's like, how can you position a student to actively engage in what they need so they can learn? And then, I mean, another high leverage practice we'll talk about is, how do they demonstrate what they learn? And that's, what we were using on some of those state standardized tests too.
Mm-hmm. And I've seen it look different in different kids. Some will work for food. And we're not talking full steak dinners like a cashew. Answer a question, get a cashew. I have one that will work for Pokemon cards and, finish a worksheet and pick a Pokemon card. So a lot of times those kinds of tokens, little things like that can be real motivators. I have another student that I work with regularly that just honestly is kind of like me in the area of self-care, where I like to look forward to something. So with the promise of a break and we're going to play a hand of Uno, he'll do 10 worksheets, and then break time, we play a hand of Uno, and then we get back to work and he'll say, can we play another hand of Uno after I finish this? And then I set a timer and yep, we can play another hand of Uno after you finish this. So it oftentimes is very simple things. It's just finding what works for that student. And then they will engage, and they're able to get done far more than anybody even imagines that they could. It's just finding their style, and their style is a little bit different. If some students that are horribly distracted by the computer, they can't keep one single tab open. They have to open 15 tabs and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. But when you take it away and you put it on a piece of paper, well, then they get it done. Other students that just don't write. They don't want to write. They're better on a computer. So you flip it. So I think it's just accommodating the specific needs of the student and finding that which engages them and keeping things very relevant to what's going on in their life. I've even changed stories to make the story fit their life. As long as the end result of the story was the same, they could still answer the question. I'm going to adjust it so that it works for them. They don't understand what's being said. So for that, word problem in math, Mary had 4 oranges. How about, Jimmy had 4 Pokemon cards, and, just change the wording, make it something that relates to them, makes them smile too.
Well, that's what I was just thinking is you have gotten some very staunchly resistant learners to engage in learning and to learn hard things and to learn more and perform more that even they themselves thought was possible. But as you're sharing these stories, you're talking about listening, you're talking about engaging their interests, you're talking about doing things that really puts on full display that you are noticing them as people and what kind of makes them tick. And then you're advocating either directly by how you're, interacting with them, or then how you're coaching and guiding other folks on the team to be able to engage with and interact with them. There's an aspect of kind of just assumed rapport that you have then just automatically created simply by listening and making little adjustments where it just helps them learn, helps you get, whatever the teacher needs to get done. But that in and of itself is really building rapport, which a lot of times we'll find with our students. If they don't like you, they aren't working for you. And so it's not that they don't want to do the work, it's they're not doing anything for you. And then it becomes a more personal thing. And so then how do we adjust that? Well, everything you just shared had nothing to do with, do they like me? Do they not? It's, I'm looking at them. And by me trying to figure them out, I'm actually demonstrating things that are just going to create rapport by proxy.
Yep.
Well, I'm wondering, are there any examples that are coming to mind for you? I know we've already shared a few along the way here, but when we're looking at active student engagement, I'm thinking maybe some of those like super resistant learners that were full stop, no go, like there's no way you can't make me type learners, that you were able to find something that either they didn't recognize about themselves or were able to kind of adjust a little something in maybe their intervention plan, or something that was going on around them that really unlocked opportunities for them to show what they know in ways that they maybe weren't yet.
Well, I think oftentimes just completing a task that no one thought they would complete, including them, that shows that they know something.
Yes.
Pulling back on, as they start to engage, pulling back on the amount of assistance that I give them. Once they're engaged, now I want to back off a little bit and allow them to show what they know. I think it all just goes back to kind of just paying attention to the kid. I have one that I work with pretty regularly. He is a really good reader, but he feels overwhelmed by too many words on the page. So we'll start off with me reading more than him on the page. He'll read, I'll read, he'll read, I'll read, he'll read, but I'm taking more of the words. As we go on, I back off, he reads more. And by the time we get to the last part, he's reading all of it because I pulled myself away. So just fading that out as you start to recognize what it is that they need to learn. I think one of my favorite success stories was a very, very difficult student who just was difficult in every way. But vocabulary, he failed every vocabulary test he ever took. And we started taking walks outside, and that was part of his break time. And in doing so, we would walk and I would go over the vocabulary words with him while we walked, and we would talk about other things. And then we come back to vocabulary words, and I got to know him very well. And then he would take his vocabulary test and he would pass because he actually knew the words, but we walked and talked and did it. And that was what he needed. He couldn't sit still and just memorize vocabulary words and definitions, but in walking and talking and using them in conversation and going over definitions, as we would talk, I would find a way to work that word in to casual conversation, and now it segues in and he starts to put it all together. And he started passing his vocabulary test, which was amazing. It worked. I didn't know if I was just talking into the air until he took a test and I got to see that he could do it.
Well, you had to be monitoring that progress, right? That's one of the pieces of this high leverage practice is, it's not just are they engaging, it's is that engagement resulting in learning? And that has an aspect of monitoring, right? So like I'm supporting you a lot and then I'm pulling back on my support. Well, is that like, well, you've been doing good enough, I'm out of here. It's like, no, like doing that gradual release and watching and, is this actually having the outcome that we wanted to? Are they still maintaining the way they have been doing? Or do we need to adjust some other things? Like you're saying, hey, we started off with bombing these vocab quizzes and then we swapped it out. They were able to engage in their learning much more actively, which then actually resulted in those higher scores. So I think there is that aspect of monitoring that performance and even just knowing just that level of honest, constructive feedback where if something shows up, they're engaging in something and it's going wrong, like you'll give them that feedback, you'll get them back on track. But likewise, if they're engaging and you're like, holy smokes, you just got that. That's amazing. Right. Like you're also really great at noticing kind of both sides and providing that feedback in a way that's just like, hey, we're just human and we're just learning and figuring stuff out and keeping it going, which I think then builds right back into that rapport, right? It's all these moving pieces that have to come together for a student to be actively engaged. It's more than just sit down and listen and do your work.
Mhm. And oftentimes the goals that our students meet, they seem like something everybody should be doing. So when they actually do meet that goal, nobody notices.
Hmm.
Well, I won't say nobody, but it can
Yeah.
be easily missed because we think, well, that's something they should have been doing all along. They're in seventh grade now. They should be doing that. Well, they
Mhm.
weren't. And so providing that positive feedback to encourage them to keep going is important. And you wouldn't know to do that if you're not paying attention to the little things, celebrating the little victories, and knowing that that is a victory because you're monitoring the progress and paying attention to, how they're growing and, celebrating them as they go through that process. They're more likely to want to continue to grow when it's being noticed. And our kiddos, they get a lot of negative. And so finding ways to give them some of that positive is just unbelievably important to continued student engagement and seeing the progress that we're trying to see.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Like I said at the beginning, you have gotten some of the most reluctant and resistant learners to actively engage and kind of surprise themselves with their own outcomes. So, thank you so much for taking the time to share with me how you make that happen.
Thank you.
This week, it's Webinar Week. Dive into an exclusive webinar featuring insights from practitioners just like you who've achieved remarkable success in their own corners of our education world. Whether you aspire to advance your career, explore new possibilities, or simply expand your horizons, our webinars cover a vast array of topics. Pre-recorded webinars offer the flexibility you need to fit learning into your busy life. You have the power to watch, rewind, and replay the content at your own convenience. And did we mention you can earn continuing education units too? We want to invite you to head over to thresholdlearning.org, your one-stop destination for all things TLC. Here, you'll find this episode's show notes and blog pairing, our entire catalog of ACE-accredited self-paced courses, an ever-expanding bookshelf of resources, and anything else we've talked about. See you there. Attention educators pursuing behavior analysis certifications, Supervision with TLC is designed for educators like you, offering remote supervision with school-based BCBAs that fits into your schedule instead of the other way around. Our supervised fieldwork approach allows you to earn your hours right in your classroom alongside your teaching responsibilities. Benefit from affordable rates, month-to-month scheduling, and comprehensive supervision, all 100% remote. Our school-based BCBAs are here to guide you every step of the way. So why switch jobs when you can stay in education and grow professionally? Explore more at thresholdlearning.org/supervision and see how we can help you succeed.
Student engagement is crucial for achieving positive academic outcomes. The link between engagement and academic success is robust and well documented. Engaged students are not just more likely to excel academically, they are also more likely to develop a genuine interest in learning and a sense of autonomy. Teachers often employ a range of engagement strategies to motivate students and foster personal connections. These might include collaborative activities like peer assisted learning or individualized approaches such as personalized feedback. Beyond just getting students to participate, effective strategies help students see the relevance of their education and foster a sense of belonging. Beyond just getting students to participate, effective strategies help students see the relevance of their education and foster a sense of belonging. Engagement itself is a multifaceted concept encompassing cognitive, affective, and behavioral dimensions. Behavioral engagement involves students' participation in activities. Effective engagement covers their feelings of belonging and the value they place on school. And cognitive engagement refers to their persistence and effort, especially on challenging tasks. These dimensions are interrelated and are significantly influenced by teachers' actions and instructional practices. The level of student engagement directly impacts academic achievement and the likelihood of graduating from high school. This is especially important for students with disabilities who, when included in general education settings, may not always engage as actively as their peers. Such students are at a higher risk of dropping out, while engagement being a key predictor of high school completion. To mitigate these risks, it's vital for special education teachers to help students set personal goals, explicitly teach and model engagement behaviors, and build strong relationships from the start. By strategically integrating engagement strategies into daily instruction educators can address many of the challenges that threaten students' academic success and overall well being. Maintaining high levels of student engagement can be one of the more demanding aspects of teaching, yet it's crucial for fostering both academic achievement and student satisfaction. An effective special educator plays a pivotal role in crafting and delivering instruction that keeps students engaged and progressing towards their academic and behavioral goals. There's no single path to achieving this, but engagement often flourishes when the learning activities are suitably challenging, when students aren't distracted by their surroundings, and when they have access to supportive strategies that aid their success. A strong approach begins with a blend of high leverage practices, or HLPs, and evidence based strategies. For instance, incorporating explicit instruction, HLP 16, and providing high quality feedback, HLPs 8 and 22, within a well organized, respectful learning environment, HLP 7, sets a solid foundation for engagement. Furthermore, systematically designing instruction to meet individual learning goals, HLP 11, and integrating relevant adaptations like technology supports, HLP 19, and scaffolds, HLP 15, can significantly enhance student engagement. By combining these practices thoughtfully, educators can create a learning environment that not only captures students' interest, but also supports their ongoing development. Teachers who excel at promoting active student engagement understand that building strong, positive relationships with their students is key. They tailor their approaches to fit individual needs, often incorporating technology like augmentative communication devices or visual supports to enhance engagement. These educators are adept at using a range of research backed strategies to keep students actively involved. This might include fluency building activities, guided notes, class wide peer tutoring, and various digital tools. They ensure that students have ample opportunities to respond and interact with their peers, fostering a dynamic and participatory learning environment. Feedback plays a crucial role in this process. Effective teachers provide detailed, academic, and behavior specific feedback, helping students understand how they're meeting expectations and motivating them to maintain or improve their performance. Additionally, they embrace the energy of a classroom engaged in group activities, encouraging what might be termed good noise, that lively, productive buzz of students collaborating and learning. By integrating games, rewards, and consistent praise, they create a vibrant atmosphere that supports active and enthusiastic participation. To effectively support teachers in fostering active student engagement, school leaders should focus on various key areas. Start by providing educators with robust professional development and coaching that covers a broad spectrum of strategies aimed at enhancing student involvement. Observing how these strategies are put into practice allows leaders to offer valuable feedback, highlighting both strengths and areas for improvement. When teachers face challenges in applying these strategies, it's crucial to work collaboratively with them to pinpoint specific obstacles and provide targeted support. Encourage educators to think creatively and explore innovative methods for engaging students while also staying updated on new developments in engagement strategies to keep the teaching approach fresh and effective. In essence, fostering a culture of active engagement requires a commitment to ongoing learning, flexibility, and a proactive approach to problem solving and support. Research consistently shows that student engagement plays a crucial role in academic success, particularly for those at risk of poor learning outcomes. While most studies focus on general education, we know that students with disabilities are even more vulnerable to disengagement and dropout. This risk is significant because disengagement often leads to negative educational and life outcomes. For educators, especially those in inclusive classrooms, recognizing the signs of disengagement and addressing them promptly is essential. Teachers must implement a variety of strategies to keep these students engaged. Early, positive, and consistent engagement strategies are key to fostering both academic and behavioral success. This proactive approach helps create a supportive environment that can significantly improve outcomes for students with disabilities. Thanks for listening. Join us next week, High Leverage Practice number 19, How to Use Assistive and Instructional Technologies. We can't wait.
Hey, before you jump back into your busy life, consider dropping a like and follow Threshold Learning TLC on Facebook and Instagram. And if you like our show, share the podcast with your colleagues. A personal recommendation is by far the best way to promote the podcast. let them know that they can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else they catch their podcasts. Just be sure to leave a rating and review on your favorite platform. You can also email us at info@thresholdlearning.org. We always enjoy connecting with fellow educators and champions for educational justice. You can find everything you're looking for at thresholdlearning.org. See you there.